Hello, good evening. Welcome to Look North.
Yes, good evening. Our top story tonight. Fighting knife crime. What Sheffield can learn from Glasgow's transformation from murder capital of Europe.
My kids no longer have to come and visit me in prison. My kids don't need to attend my funeral. They've got their dad back.
The government's pledged more money to tackle knife crime in Sheffield, so what's the best way to spend it?
Also tonight, speaking out, the youngsters being taught about good and bad secrets and who to talk to about staying safe.
Cool as ice, we meet the Sheffield Steel Kings, the biggest para ice hockey team in the country.
Simply divine, shoppers in Leeds are treated to a touch of Damien Hirst to mark the start of the first International Yorkshire Sculpture Festival.
And it brightened up nicely across the west today, and we do have more sunshine in the forecast over the next few days and for the weekend too. Join me later for all the details.
Thank you for joining us. First tonight, the rising problem of knife crime in Sheffield. Last year, 8 men were stabbed to death in the city. So what can be done to turn things around? Perhaps Sheffield can learn from success elsewhere.
In 2005, Glasgow was branded the murder capital of Europe by the World Health Organization. But thanks to a radical approach that they brought in, knife crime has fallen dramatically. Well, we've taken a group from Sheffield to Glasgow to learn more. Mark Ansell has this special report.
Arriving into Glasgow, a group of Sheffielders all deeply motivated to cut knife crime. Dr Alan Billings is the South Yorkshire Police and Crime Commissioner. Councillor Cowton Rivers represents an area of Sheffield affected by knife crime and was friends with one of the victims. Dr Will Mason is an expert on marginalised youth and a volunteer at Unity Gym, which diverts teenagers away from gangs. 15 years ago, Glasgow was known as the murder capital of Europe. There was an epidemic of knife crime. The Scottish Government brought in a radical new public health approach. The Violence Reduction Unit was set up. They treat violent crimes as a disease and deal with its causes. Their evidence-based approach showed the police, schools, hospitals and charities all have to work together.
What do you think South Yorkshire, specifically perhaps Sheffield, could learn from the Violence Reduction Unit here in Glasgow?
The answers are out there in the communities, the answers are out there in our service leaders and our people working there, and it's just as important to listen to them and listen because they are very close to the issue. And that's basically what public health is, listening to people, understand the evidence and driving through early action. It took us 10 years. You know, it wasn't like we changed things overnight. It took 10 years of engagement, 10 years of meetings, 10 years of coffees, 10 years of actually developing relationships with key people in Scotland.
On a visit to Paisley Grammar School, we saw older students delivering a session on knife crime. The Mentors in Violence Prevention programme takes place at schools across Scotland.
What did you think of the lessons?
It is good to have these kind of discussions because other people might not have them. So if you have information about it, you can tell other people about it so they know and they can tell more people and it just spreads.
Can anybody tell me what knife crime actually is? We're coming in and we're not a teacher telling them what to do. You know, it's new and it's fresh and it's interesting to see how they react differently to us compared to teachers. And we're more, I think, relatable than teachers because we're a closer age to them. I think that makes a difference in delivering the lessons.
It's an important issue because it obviously really affects people's life. And if we can get to the root of the problem before it even happens, then obviously that makes a big difference.
The drop in knife crime is reflected here on the Easter House estate on the outskirts of Glasgow. The NHS data for Scotland shows that 10 years ago, there was 1,415 people admitted to hospital with stab wounds. Contrast that with last year, where there were just 553 people going to A&E with those types of wounds. That's a dramatic drop of 60%. Another project supported by the Violence Reduction Unit is this cafe, which helps gang members coming out of prison get on the straight and narrow by giving them a job and pairing them with mentors.
The biggest thing that people get is hope. What we are doing is providing hope for people. We're providing them a chance to work. So unless people have got hope, what's the point?
Alan, Kaltoum and Will sat down with Reform gang member Callum to hear his shocking story. The Street and Arrow Cafe has been transformational for him.
Where did your life begin to change and why did that happen?
Well, for a long time, I was involved in territorial gangs in Glasgow. There was lots of violence in my life. I used to carry a weapon for a long time. I used to carry a weapon through fear.
A knife?
A knife, yeah. And I would carry that knife purely because I was scared of getting stabbed. And 3 years ago, I was coming home. I get outside my front door and I end up getting stabbed 9 times outside my front door. If I did die, I would have been all right with it. Because I never knew that I was heading to meet 2 people that were going to help me change my life. I never knew that. So when I was in that ambulance, I was like, if this is it, this is it. It's a horrible place to be at 26, man. With 2 beautiful kids, a partner, the outside looking in, everything to live for, but inside broken. The most rewarding thing is my kids no longer have to come and visit me in prison. My kids don't need to attend my funeral. They've got their dad back.
So what can Sheffield learn from how Glasgow dramatically cut knife crime?
Building relationships and bringing people together on the same table who do feel that they can actually work together. And I think public health approach is that rather than just a name.
Do you want to see the Glasgow model implemented?
Yes, I do, because I believe this is an example of preventative work. And I think that the future of policing is going to be more and more about prevention, not about mopping up after there's been crime and violence.
I think we need to work closely with schools and with people who are involved in the organisations of schools to support young people to stay in school. And I also think we need to think carefully about how to support young people into different modes of employment and positive activities.
Perhaps the answer to Sheffield's knife crime problem lies north of the border. Mark Ansell, BBC Look North, Glasgow.